During the will announcement, my in-laws handed every grandchild an envelope, except my 8-year-old. "We've decided you don't count as family," my mother-in-law said in front of everyone. My daughter froze. We didn't shout. We acted. 3 days later, their lawyer called and they went pale. The room had been too quiet even before the envelopes came out. Not respectful quiet. Not ceremonial quiet. Tense quiet. Hostile quiet. The kind of quiet where everyone knows something ugly is about to happen, except the one person it's going to hit hardest. Paula, my daughter, my 8-year-old who still believes grown-ups mean what they say, bounced in her chair, excited, completely unaware that her place in this family was about to be publicly erased. My husband, Adam, sat beside her, watching his parents with the same wary calm he always had around them, like someone handling unstable chemicals and praying today wouldn't be the day something exploded. His mother, Susan, stood at the head of the long dining table, hands folded. His father, Norman, sat stiffly beside her, wearing his usual expression of, "I'm judging everyone here, and also the furniture." Adam's sister, Sabrina, perched on a chair like she was waiting for her spotlight. His older brother, Sean, was pretending not to be uncomfortable. Even Tina, Adam's ex, was here, with their teenage son Owen slouched beside her, visibly bored. And then there was Paula, my sweet, hopeful little girl, practically glowing. Because to her, this wasn't a family legacy ceremony or a will announcement. It was a day where she got to be with cousins, hear nice things, and feel included. She'd even worn her favorite yellow dress. Because yellow is happy, Mommy. I wished I could have wrapped her in armor. Susan cleared her throat. "Now that everyone's here," she said, smiling the kind of smile that never reached her eyes, "we'd like to begin." A small stack of envelopes sat in front of her. 2 types. Large cream envelopes for the adults. Colorful decorated envelopes for the kids. The children were supposed to open theirs out loud, the cute kid version, filled with sentimental notes, old photos, and "we love you so much" messages. The adults were told to read theirs privately at home. It was all very performative. Very Susan. The first child was called forward. She opened her little envelope, giggled, read out a message about how she was Grandma's sunshine and Grandpa's pride. And everyone clapped politely. Then the next child. And the next. And the next. Every kid had their moment. Except mine. Paula sat up straighter every time Susan reached for another envelope. Her smile got wider. She kept brushing her dress flat, making sure she was ready. And then Susan skipped her. Right over her. Like Paula wasn't even sitting there. She handed an envelope to the next cousin, and the next. My daughter's smile wavered, but she stayed hopeful. Because she is 8, and 8-year-olds believe in fairness the way they believe in gravity. Eventually, every cousin had opened their envelope. Every child had heard their loving message. And Paula sat with empty hands. Finally, Susan turned to her. Soft voice. Soft smile. The kind of softness people use right before pulling the rug out from under you. "Oh, honey," she cooed. "I know you've been waiting." Paula beamed. "For a heartbeat." Then Susan added, still in that syrupy tone, "We've talked about this a lot, and we hope you understand. But we've decided you don't count as family." The words dropped like a guillotine. Paula stopped breathing. Her hands curled into her dress. She stared at Susan like she'd been slapped, but wasn't sure why. My chest burned. My brain went silent. Norman nodded stiffly, as if Susan had just delivered a weather report. Sabrina shifted uncomfortably. Sean looked down at his shoes. Tina sucked in a breath. Even Owen muttered, "What the hell?" But nobody said anything to stop it. Nobody. Paula finally whispered. Did I do something wrong? That sound, that tiny shaking sound, will haunt me forever. Adam straightened slowly. He didn't yell, didn't ask why, didn't even blink. He just said quietly, "Where's her envelope?" Susan brightened, as if she'd been waiting for that line. "Oh, Adam, you still get yours," she said, picking up a cream-colored envelope and holding it out like it was a prize. "Your family." My stomach flipped. He didn't take it right away. "Just me?" he asked. "Not Paula." A long, awful beat. Susan sighed, trying to soften the blow. "Well, she's lovely, dear. Truly. But it's different. We're sure you understand." He didn't. He really, really didn't. But he reached out, slowly, and took the envelope. Paula watched his hand like it was deciding her fate. Adam stared at the envelope, then at her. He didn't open it, didn't even look tempted. Instead, he walked back to the table and set the envelope down, flat, deliberate, final. Then he turned to Susan and Norman and said, voice steady enough to shake the walls, "If my daughter isn't your family, then neither am I." A ripple went through the room. Susan gasped. Norman scoffed. Sabrina froze. Sean whispered, "Holy crap." Tina's eyebrows shot up. Owen looked impressed for the first time in his life. Adam reached for Paula's hand. "Let's go," he said. I stood, took her other hand, and the three of us walked out. No yelling, no theatrics, just a clean, brutal exit. If you told me years ago that I'd one day sit through a will ceremony where my daughter would be publicly erased, I'd probably laugh the kind of laugh that means I'm in danger. Because nothing with Adam's family was ever normal, not dramatic, not explosive, just off. Off enough that when the disaster finally came, I could trace the cracks all the way back to the day I met him. Adam was 25 when we met. Kind, quiet, handsome in that unpolished way where you can still see the boy he used to be. And unlike every man I had dated before, he didn't collect red flags like trading cards. He collected soft smiles, long silences, and genuine effort. There was one complication, though. He already had a son. Owen was 6 when I met him. Wide eyes, endless questions, and a habit of telling strangers highly personal facts about his father. "My dad cries at Pixar movies," was the first thing he said to me. Owen's mother, Tina, had been a teenage girlfriend. One of those, we were kids who thought we were adults stories. They co-parented without drama, and honestly, I admired it. I came into their lives slowly, carefully, respectfully. And before I knew it, I loved Owen too. 2 days a week love at first, then family love. The kind that sneaks up on you until you can't remember life before it. That's around when Adam and I started trying for a baby. Trying became tracking. Tracking became timing. Timing became an emotional marathon I wouldn't wish on my worst enemy. Month after month, nothing. And the pressure wasn't just biology, it was his family. Adam came from a big one. Parents, siblings, cousins, the whole clan. And they were loud, opinionated, and competitive about everything. They treated family life like a performance. Babies? Perform. Weddings? Perform. Holiday dinners? Full Broadway production. And under every scene the same whispered reminder. This family has history. Legacy. Old money roots. Not Bentley rich, just the kind of rich where everyone is sure there's a big inheritance somewhere upstream. Some trust no one really understands, but everyone assumes will eventually trickle down. Not to Adam. Not yet. Just rumors. Heavy. Entitled. Poisonous. Then one day, after 2 years of infertility and heartbreak, I sat in a doctor's office with the kind of dread that eats through bone. The doctor was gentle. The news wasn't. My body wasn't going to cooperate. Not without medical miracles. Not without grief. Adam held my hand, squeezed once, and whispered, "Okay." But that kind of okay stretches thin. It pressed on both of us, especially him, because he'd already lived the parenting beginnings with someone else, and he wanted to experience everything with me too. We talked about adoption. Actually, we didn't just talk. We circled it, analyzed it, held it up to the light, and examined all the ways it could save us or break us. What finally tipped us? His grandmother. Adam's grandmother had been adopted, and everyone in the family said she was the heart of the bloodline, even though she shared none of their DNA. She'd built the family's values, wealth, reputation. She was the source of those old money whispers. She once said, according to Adam's mom, "If you raise a child, they're yours. Full stop." That line became our North Star, so we began the adoption process. If infertility is a marathon, adoption is a labyrinth. Paperwork, interviews, more paperwork, waiting, hoping, more waiting. And then we met her, Paula, 3 years old, soft curls, wide eyes, a laugh so bright it could cut through winter. We fell in love on sight. We brought her home. She called us Mommy and Daddy within weeks, and she became Owen's little shadow, following him everywhere like a devoted sidekick. But family, real family, comes with shadows too. At first, Adam's parents fawned over her the way people do over any cute toddler. But as she got older, the warmth cooled into something tight and polite. After visits to their house, Paula clung to us and asked if she was really part of the family. Adam kept saying they just needed time. They'd already had years. That's why, when the invitation arrived for the family will announcement, Paula lit up like Christmas morning. She thought it meant belonging, recognition, confirmation. She couldn't remember life before us, but she knew what it felt like to be the odd one out. She was 8, old enough to see patterns, young enough to still hope. And that was the part that got me. The way her whole face lit up when we told her Adam's parents were hosting a family gathering. She thought it meant games, pictures, maybe even a chance to feel like all the cousins finally saw her the same way she saw them. I didn't correct her. I didn't warn her. I just prayed I wasn't walking her straight into something I wouldn't be able to undo. I was wrong. If silence had a flavor, that drive home tasted like metal. Paula sat in the back seat, seatbelt tight across her tiny chest, staring straight ahead. Not crying, not speaking, just holding herself together the way only an 8-year-old who's been humiliated in public can. Adam kept both hands on the wheel, white-knuckled, jaw locked, breathing like someone trying not to punch the airbag. I kept twisting around to check on her, but she didn't look at me. Not once. When we stepped inside our house, Paula stopped just past the doorway and stood there, small and stiff, like she wasn't sure she was allowed to move anymore. My heart cracked all over again. "Sweetie," I said gently, "come sit with us." We settled on the couch, Adam on one side, me on the other. Paula folded between us like she didn't want to take up space. After a long moment, she whispered, Did you lose money because of me?" That one hit me so hard I actually flinched. Adam blinked like he'd been slapped. "What?" he said softly. "Where did you get that idea?" "You left your envelope," she murmured. "Everyone got something. And I didn't. So maybe you lost yours too. Because of me." The way she said "because of me," I swear something ancient and primal woke up in me. Adam leaned down until he was eye level with her. Paula, he said, voice steady, listen carefully. I didn't lose anything because of you. I chose to walk away because I'm your father, because you're my family. If they don't see that, then I don't want anything from them. Not a cent, not a scrap. Paula's chin wobbled. Her eyes flooded. She didn't cry. She just crawled into his arms, wrapped herself around him, and held on like he was the only solid thing left in the universe. And Adam held her the same way. After she finally went to her room, we stood outside her door for a minute, both of us listening to her soft, exhausted breathing. Adam exhaled shakily. I keep thinking about what I just gave up, he said quietly. I'm not sure I even understand the size of it. No, I cut in. You didn't walk away from money. You walked away from people who told our daughter she wasn't family. That's not security. That's poison. He nodded once, slowly, the worry still sitting in his shoulders. We went to the living room, sat on opposite ends of the couch the way people do when they're too wired to relax but too drained to stand. Then Adam said the sentence that changed everything. Actually, I don't even know if they can exclude her. I looked up. What do you mean? Their whole inheritance isn't technically theirs, he said. A lot of it is from my grandmother's trust. She set it up years ago. Multi-generational. Structured. She was adopted, remember? She would have never made a distinction between biological or adopted grandchildren, and trusts aren't like normal inheritance. There are rules. My pulse kicked up. Do you have the documents? I asked. He shook his head. No, they kept everything. I've never seen the trust paperwork. Then we need a lawyer, I said. ASAP. The next morning, we sat across from Ms. Daly, a calm, steel-spined attorney with the kind of expression that suggested she'd seen 3 divorces, 2 fraud cases, and several midlife crises before her first coffee. When Adam explained what happened, she didn't blink. You're a beneficiary, she said. Legally, you're entitled to full documentation of the trust. They can't hide it from you. So we can get the papers? I asked. We can demand the papers, she corrected. She drafted the request, notarized it, and sent it that same afternoon, and that's when the storm hit. By the next morning, the letter had been delivered, and less than an hour after that, Adam's phone rang. His parents' number lit up the screen like a warning flare. He answered on speaker. Norman's voice exploded through the phone. How dare you send a lawyer after us? You humiliated us in front of everyone, Susan shrieked. And now you want the money? After walking out? Adam didn't raise his voice. He didn't apologize. He didn't justify. He simply said, I want what my grandmother intended. Nothing more. Nothing less. You don't deserve it, Susan snapped. Not after abandoning your family for that girl. Adam hung up. Just hung up. No speech. No anger. Just a clean, lethal click. 3 days later, Ms. Daly called. They sent over the trust packet, she said. You'll want to see this in person. We didn't talk much on the drive. There wasn't anything to say. Every nerve in my body felt like a lit fuse. Ms. Daly's office was quiet. The expensive, soundproof kind of quiet. She closed the door behind us, sat, and pulled a thick binder onto the desk. Plastic sleeves, aged paper, wax seals, signatures from people long gone. Here, she said, flipping to a tab marked in fading ink. We leaned in. There it was. Grandchildren shall each receive equal shares. Not biological grandchildren, not bloodline grandchildren, just grandchildren. Adam exhaled like someone had been sitting on his lungs. So, Paula, counts, he murmured. Ms. Daly nodded. Legally, yes. She turned another page, scanning, her eyebrows pinched. Hold on, she said softly. There's a notation here. She slid the binder toward us and tapped a line handwritten in the margin. Older ink, familiar handwriting. For avoidance of doubt, grandchildren includes all legally adopted descendants. A chill crawled up my spine. That's, Adam whispered, my grandmother's handwriting. Ms. Daly nodded again. She was very explicit, which makes what they did curious. Curious. That word carried weight. Too much weight. I asked, is that enough to file? In theory, yes, she said, but I want to examine the rest before we act. This trust is large, complex, and she stopped. Her finger hovered over a different section. Then she looked up at Adam, slowly. Adam, did your parents ever transfer any trust distributions to you? At any age? He blinked. No. Why? She tapped the page again. Because according to this, you were supposed to receive a distribution at 18, and another at 25. My pulse spiked. And I'm guessing, she continued gently, you never saw a cent. He shook his head. Once. Stunned. Ms. Daly shut the binder carefully. Not dramatically. Carefully. Like someone closing a file labeled danger. There may be more here, she said. A lot more. I need to run a deeper analysis before I tell you anything certain. A cold ripple went down my arms. What does more mean? I asked. It means, she said, folding her hands, that what happened to Paula may only be the tip of the iceberg. The office felt smaller, tighter. Adam swallowed. So, what do we do now? Ms. Daly pushed a short form across the desk. For now, you authorize me to request the full accounting, quietly, formally, before they realize what we've found. I looked at Adam. He looked at me. There was fear in his eyes, yes, but something else too. Resolve. Fatherhood. A different kind of inheritance. Do it, I said. We signed. Ink on paper. Fast, final. Irreversible. Ms. Daly gathered the binder. I'll be in touch as soon as I have the full picture. She paused. And Nadine? Yes? Prepare yourselves. Whatever's under this surface. People don't hide things unless the truth is worse. We stepped out into the hallway, the door clicking shut behind us. Adam exhaled shakily. That didn't sound good. It wasn't meant to, I said. We walked toward the elevator, the fluorescent lights humming above us. I could feel it. Something shifting under our feet. Something big. Bigger than Paula's envelope. Bigger than the insult. Bigger than anything that had already blown up. Whatever was coming. We hadn't even seen the first crack. Days went by without a word from them. Paula colored at the table but jumped at every car outside. Adam and I flinched at every buzz on our phones. By the third evening, he muttered, "They're coordinating. I know that silence." He was right. The knock came the next morning. Not loud, not frantic, just firm, like someone tapping with the certainty of we belong inside. Adam opened the door. Susan and Norman stood there wearing their fake church potluck smiles. Norman held a tin of cookies. Susan held her dignity like it was a fragile ornament. "Adam, sweetheart," she said in a tone that implied nothing had happened. "We'd really love to talk." Sweetheart. I nearly snorted. We let them in, mostly because shock is a physical force. They sat on our couch like they were hosting us. "We've been thinking," Norman began, as if delivering a quarterly report. "About the envelopes. About the misunderstanding." There it was. The word people use when they don't want to say cruelty. Susan leaned forward. "We truly want to make things right. We want Paula to feel included." My spine tightened. Adam didn't respond. He simply waited, dangerously calm. We realized, Susan continued, that we may have acted too quickly. We didn't have enough time to bond with her. Her smile wobbled. But of course she's part of the future distribution. Translation: we regret getting caught. And, Norman added, we're willing to advance your portion early. A gesture of goodwill. There it was, the bribe wrapped in buttercream. Adam finally spoke. Quiet. Precise. You want us to withdraw the legal request? Susan's smile cracked. Norman's jaw twitched. We just don't think lawyers are necessary, she said. It would be unpleasant for everyone. Translation: stop digging before you find the bodies. Adam looked at them. Really looked. You're not sorry, he said. You're scared. Silence fell so hard the room seemed to tilt. You're not doing this because of Paula, he went on. You're doing this because you know there's something in that trust you don't want anyone to see. Their faces twitched. Guilt, fear, outrage, all fighting for space. That's outrageous, Norman snapped. We've managed that estate responsibly for decades. Then, Adam said, standing, you shouldn't mind the lawyer finishing her review. That was it. Politeness shattered. This is disgusting, Susan hissed. Going after your own parents. You went after my child, Adam said calmly. He opened the door. They left with sputtering insults and wounded pride hanging off them like wet laundry. Adam locked the door, checked it twice, pressed his forehead against the frame. I touched his back. You okay? He exhaled like someone finally understanding the weight he'd carried his entire life. I'm done letting them decide who counts. The lawyer didn't call the next day, or the next. Real investigations take time, the kind of time that stretches nerves like piano wire. Paula slowly uncurled. She played, drew, smiled more. Every night she asked, "Are they coming back?" Every night we told her no. Every night she held that answer like it was a new kind of safety. Meanwhile, emails trickled in from Ms. Daly. A note here, a discrepancy there, then something larger, then something that made my stomach drop. By week 3, she asked us to come in. We sat in her office, Paula in the corner with crayons, Adam with both feet planted like he expected a courtroom ambush, and Ms. Daly slid a folder toward us. You were right to question them, she said. Not just about Paula, about everything. My pulse kicked. The trust wasn't theirs to shape, she continued. And they've been shaping it anyway. She flipped pages. Missing distributions, redirected funds, expenses disguised as maintenance, unearned withdrawals, discrepancies so old they had dust on them. And this, she said, tapping a highlighted section, is where it gets worse. Ms. Daly didn't flip the page dramatically. She just rotated the folder so we could see the figures ourselves. Adam inhaled sharply, because this section wasn't about Paula, or us, or envelopes. It was about money. A lot of money. Ms. Daly tapped again. This, she said carefully, is a ledger of distributions your grandmother intended for all her grandchildren. All? Adam echoed. Yes, she said. Every child of every branch. Equally. She paused. And according to the trust, each distribution was supposed to happen on a set schedule. She slid her pen down the column. Age 18, age 25. Milestones, amounts, dates. Everywhere Adam's name should have appeared, empty, completely empty. My stomach dropped. And, Ms. Daly continued, they weren't just withholding Adam's distributions. She turned another page. Your brother should have received his at 18. Turned another. Your sister as well. turned another. And these 3, she pointed, belong to the grandchildren from Sean's side. Adam stared. A muscle in his jaw twitched. You're saying, he said slowly, they didn't pay anyone? Not a single one, Ms. Daly replied. For over 20 years. I felt heat crawl up my neck. Where did the money go? Ms. Daly's mouth tightened into something that wasn't quite a smile. That, she said, is the part they are going to hate the most. She tapped the totals column, not the amounts. She covered those with her hand, but Adam saw enough of the digits to go pale. His throat bobbed. That number can't be right, he whispered. It's right, she said, and it's only preliminary. I gripped Adam's arm. And you're telling us, I said carefully, that all of this, and all of it, was supposed to go to her descendants? Yes, Ms. Daly said. Every one of them, Paula included. Silence. Not shocked silence. Not outraged silence. The kind of silence where the ground shifts under your feet and you suddenly understand why someone showed up with a tin of cookies begging for mercy. Ms. Daly folded her hands. This is no longer just about an exclusion, she said. This is a pattern, a long-term breach of fiduciary duty, potentially fraud. They will almost certainly lose their position as trustees once the court sees this. Adam rubbed his face with both hands. Jesus Christ! Ms. Daly's tone softened. I know this is a lot, but we proceed carefully, quietly. We request a full accounting. We document everything, and when this reaches court... She paused. The trust will be corrected, and the beneficiaries, and all of them, will finally get what they should have received years ago. 6 months later, life feels like a house with all the rotten beams finally ripped out. We're still no contact. Paula sleeps easier. Adam breathes easier. And the truth, once buried under decades of manipulation, now sits in the light where it belongs. When the audit finished, the fallout was nuclear. Adam's siblings were the first to call, stunned and furious. For years, every gift Susan and Norman bragged about giving had actually come from the family trust, and they'd quietly pocketed the majority of what each grandchild was supposed to receive. Mandatory distributions were disguised as generosity. Everyone had been shorted, not just Paula. The court's ruling was brutal and clean. The original family trust was dissolved. Individual sub-trusts were created for each grandchild. Adam was named trustee for Paula's sub-trust. The other siblings became trustees for their own children. Then came the accounting. Adam's share, approximately $746,000, now fully paid out. Paula's new trust should have held around $472,000. It had $181,000, the missing money spent by Susan and Norman. And Paula wasn't the only grandchild whose trust came up short. So the court ordered the only thing fair. Every spare dollar of Susan and Norman's pension is now garnished and divided across all the grandchildren's trusts, including Paula's, until the shortfalls are repaid. They sold their house, downsized to a tiny rental, and every month the family members they mistreated receive what was owed all along. As for us, we're finally free. So what do you think? Did we go too far or not far enough? Let me know in the comments and subscribe for more.